All right. So, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for bringing me back into your homes. My name is Pastor Chuck, and I'm honored to be back again on the ICN Impact Networks. This morning, we are broadcasting from our Milan platform, and we will be broadcasting on two of our main platforms, Facebook and YouTube. But now we are available on the Roku and Amazon television. We want to thank God for this milestone that ICN have come to. I want to say thank you once again for permitting us to be in your home this morning. This morning, I want to bring you scripture in the Bible that come from the book of Genesis. It's in Genesis chapter 48, and this is a scene that happened between Jacob, who is now Israel, and his son Joseph. Now, if I can just give you a little background of the story, Joseph has now become a governor or a prime minister in the land of Egypt. He's second only to the king, the Pharaoh, at that time. And he was if you knew the story, his brothers sold him to some passerby or some travelers who were on their way to Egypt after the scuffle over whether they wanted to kill him or sell him. Judah stood in and they sold him to the travelers who then took him to Egypt. He was taken into Egypt, and then he was sold to a ruler in Egypt called Potiphar. While in Potiphar's house, he became the captain of the house or the caretaker of the house. He was falsely accused. He was put in prison into the dungeon. And while in the dungeon, he had a dream. Two of Pharaoh's men who had dreams could not understand the dream. Joseph, having a gift of dream, the interpretation of dreams, was able to explain to them what the meaning of the dreams were. It came to pass, and actually, Joseph got left behind in the prison again, because this time the butler or so forgot about him. The butler or the cupbearer, also one of them forgot about him, but then the king had a dream. Pharaoh had a dream, and he could not understand, and he wanted someone to explain to him the dream. Then the guy remembered that, there's a guy in prison who did interpreted my dream, and so they ordered for the bringing of Joseph, and he came in, interpreted the dream, and told the dream. He did not only interpret the dream, but he did give an advice on how to handle the result of the dream, how to handle that, and they did show, and they did. The king said, "Well, you are the man who I can trust to do that, since you are the one who had the idea." And he is now prime minister. This is where we are. And I'm going to, but then when he became prime minister, his brothers came to buy corn, because there was no famine. There was now famine in the land. Remember, Joseph have predicted that there will be famine based on the interpretation of the dream that he gave to the king that made him prime minister. He have predicted that there will be famine in the land. And so, yes, there was famine, and his brothers came from across to come and buy corn, and he found them, and they didn't recognize him because of how he was dressed. He found them. He actually tricked them, or created a problem for them that made them to go and bring their father. When the father came, Joseph revealed himself to them. He revealed himself to his brother the second time they came, and then he asked them to go and bring the father. They brought the father. He's now staying with them. And in the time, the father has now become very old. In this culture, when your children are very old or when they knew they were closing to their death at any time, they had a kind of ritual that they do blessing their children or their grandchildren. Joseph brought two of his two sons to the father who has now become Israel to bless them because his time was getting closer to pass. And in the culture, when when you blessing, they assume that the blessing is in the right hand. That is their culture, and so you put the right hand on the one that you really want to give the blessing to, and then whatever is left is in the left hand. And so you put the left hand on the younger ones or the younger one that you want to bless. Well, Joseph, knowing their culture, even though he has now lived in Egypt, Joseph, knowing the culture, brought his two sons to his father to bless them. And I'm going to read from the Genesis. I'm reading the New American Standard Bible. That is one of the Bible which is very close to the original scriptures, to the original Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic version of the Bible. Those were the language that was spoken within that time. And so this is one that very come close. Some people also say the Message Bible, but I will be reading from the Standard Bible today. So let's see if we can share that. Yes, we have that up on the air. Now, Joseph took them. Now, let me start from verse 12. Yes, I'm on verse 12. If I can go back one step, maybe 11. Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face, and behold, God have let me see your children as well. And 12. Give me a second here. I'm trying to. There we go. And 12 says, Then Joseph took them from his knees, and bow with his face to the ground. He's now paying respect to his father. When he brought his children to his father, they were sitting before his father with his children sitting at his knee. And now, because he wants his father to do the right thing or to share, or to give this to other people. He wanted his father, he wanted him, my thought is going way wild here. He wanted his father to pay homage to his children by blessing them. He will now give his children to his father, but he performed a certain ritual of bowing down his face to the ground in respect to his father. Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, which means Ephraim was the younger one, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand to Manasseh's head, crossing his hand, although Manasseh was the firstborn. He blessed Joseph and said, The God before whom my father Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, that is the kids, and may my name live on them, my name live on in them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. When Joseph saw that his father lay his right hand on Ephraim's head, it displeased him, and he grabbed his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Place your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also will become a people, and he also will be great. However, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations. Let me go back to 12 here. We can start from there bit by bit. As I explained, Joseph brought his children to his father to bless them. Now, in that culture, when the father is about to die, or when the father dies, there is the right of the firstborn. What they do is that they divide the property into 3 parts. They give one part to the firstborn, and the rest of the parts are divided among how many other children that the person had. And so it was the birthright here that he was performing the ritual that gave the elder the birthright. It was a ritual that he was doing here. And so in blessing them, we give him the firstborn the privilege of having his birthright. Now, when Joseph brought the children, he set them in the right order that they were supposed to be set. Ephraim, I believe, and he took both Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel left, which means Ephraim was the oldest and Manasseh was the youngest. Well, he put Ephraim in front of his father's left hand. Ephraim into his father's right hand, and then Manasseh to his father's left. But when it was time for Joseph let me, if I can raise my hand like this so you can see what I'm talking about. When it was time for Jacob to bless the children like this, he crossed his hand like this. This is how you bless the children. You put your right hand on the older one head, and you put your left hand on the younger one's head, and then you bless them. But while it was time for him to do this, he crossed his hand like this, putting his right hand on the younger one and putting his left hand on the older one. Joseph, knowing the culture and knowing what protocol was, it displeased him. He was saying, Father, not so. You're doing the wrong thing. This is the younger one. This is the older. And he tried removing the hand, his father's hand, to put it on the right thing. I don't even think those kids knew what was happening over there. I believe they were confused. They didn't even know what the father and son was doing here. But he was setting a privilege. He was setting a thing here that will follow the next time the next time we come on here, I will try to tell you how this thing affected these 2 tribes. But Jacob will cross his hand to bless the 2 lads. And he put his blessing, which means he was putting majority of the blessing on the younger one and putting the lesser of his blessing on the older one. That was how they believed in. That was their culture, and that was what it did. And if you remember, even Jacob, when he stole his brother's blessing, and his father blessed him, and by the time his brother came, he has already taken the blessing, and his brother was weeping, at least give me something, because the father have put in the right hand on Jacob, and I've blessed him, and he's giving him all the blessing that he has. What he said is final. During those days, that was what they believed, and Bible did make reference of it coming to pass. So Joseph is here displeased, very, very displeased on what his father has done. He has left it. He has taken um, right hand on the younger one, and putting the left hand on the older. And Joseph is very displeased about that. He's now having this confrontation with his father, saying, "No, father, I need you to please reverse this." And his father said, "No," which means his father was now prophesying. He was now saying that, "I know these kids. I know the culture. I know the ritual here. I know what we perform, but spiritually, it is not so. It is not how it's supposed to. It is not how it's going to be, even though it's what we expect it to be." Now, this book can bring this scenario can bring a lot of things to us in mind. Most of the times in court, in our daily life, we come against such things. We have children that we know the older one, most of the time in the culture I come from, the older one is the one who will always advance in life and try to help the younger ones as he goes up. And so if he has a business, he will employ the younger siblings who will then come to work with him until they grow to a stage where they can also have their own business, and then they also have the younger siblings behind them. But sometimes it is not so. Sometimes one of the younger siblings do happen to start a business that become even better than the older one. It's not because it's what the parents want or what the parents desire, but it's nature. It's how God plays it. It's how God perceive it will be. Sometimes the older one will serve the younger one. It is possible that the younger one get a better job or get a better business that he will now have to employ his older siblings to work with him. And I can remember this, Dr. Miles Monroe, he bless his soul. When he became he became a pastor and a multimillionaire, that even his father attended his church. His father was a pastor. His father pastored him. But when he then became a pastor, he became so good, he became so influenced that his influential that his father had to now become one of his congregation. Isn't that funny? All his siblings who I don't want to miss, but I know he was one of the youngest or the youngest, but his siblings either worked for him or became part of his congregation. So this is how life is. It does not matter. The fact is that even though this has happened, Joseph is displeased with what his father did. He's angry. He's upset. He's breaking protocol. He's breaking the norms. He's going across. He's doing what is not normal. And sometimes we want to be so normal. We want to just do the right thing. And here Joseph is upset with what his father is doing. But his father, in the spiritual realm, in the realm of the spirit, have perceived that the younger will be above the older one. The older will rather serve the younger one. And he's not trying to waste his blessing. You know why? Because he felt that even though I've seen this, if I still decide to behave the normal way, I'm going to waste this blessing. It's going to be a waste, because no matter what, the younger one will always be above the older one. It was their culture. And he knew it. He saw it in the realms of the spirit. So parents, this goes to you. Even though sometimes you love one of the kids, this is your heart. This is your diamond. You love the kid. But here it says sometimes the one that you don't really pay attention to is the one who is rather climbing the ladder. Now, instead of you trying to help them or push them, just because you wish one of your other kids, the one that you prefer, would have been the one doing what this one is doing, you sometimes don't even pay any attention. You leave that kid to feel vulnerable, to feel that they are not loved. And we parents are good for doing that. Yeah, Jacob wasn't going to waste his blessing. He wasn't going to take his blessing and just throw it away, because he knew that the younger will become, will be above the older one. And so he blessed him. Well, he called on the God of his father, Abraham and Isaac. And he make reference to it. The next time when I come, I will go to details why he make reference, because in that culture, the son is never greater than the father. Even your position didn't matter. Here, if you look at this, if you look at the scenario here, Jacob is just a man. He's just now he's a common citizen. Joseph is a prime minister. Apart from the Pharaoh, no one is higher. He is above. He is the prime minister heading this whole country. Only the Pharaoh has power over him. But when he comes to his father, being that he knowing what the culture is, when he got to his father, he knelt down and put his forehead on the ground, worshiping or paying respect to his father, because he knew that in their culture, position doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your position. Your elder was your elder. Your father was your father. You will have to pay that respect. And it was very significant to them in this culture. Well, can I bring it to the culture that we're in, to the generation we're in now? The kids spit on tradition. They spit on culture. Now, it is true that sometimes some of our culture have caused the word of God to be of non-effect. It is true. In one of my teachings, I mentioned that Jesus did told the Pharisees that you've allowed your culture to be of non-effect. It's true. We go above and beyond what we're supposed to. We use it for promotion. We use it for power. We use it for whatever we want to, just as long as it favors us. But it is the right thing to be done. And Joseph is not pleased with what is going on. The father doesn't care. He knows what he's doing. He knows that he's giving the blessing to the younger one, even though based on the right of the right of the how do you call it, the right of the senior or the elder one. We go to the other son. When, let's say, if Joseph died and they want to divide his property, the older one, Ephraim is the older one. Ephraim will have 1/3 of the whole property, and the rest will go to, if Joseph had Manasseh and the rest of any other siblings that Joseph will have, or if he didn't have any other children. But here, the father is giving the blessing, because remember, there are two things. There is the birthright, and then there is the blessing. Right? The birthright indicates that you will get 1/3 of whatever your father left behind. The blessing is sometimes it's a privilege. That blessing, even though it may be a right, but sometimes it depends on the father. Here, Jacob is not taking the birthright from Ephraim. He's just taking the blessing from Ephraim. I want us to understand that. There is the birthright and there is the blessing. The birthright here, Jacob is not taking it from Ephraim. He's just taking the blessing away from Ephraim, because the birthright stays there. He can do nothing about that birthright. He can change that. But the blessing is his privilege to give it to whom he deems it will be useful, who he deems it will be more effective on. And so he did prefer to give the blessing to to Manasseh instead of Ephraim. Because he felt The older one will always serve it. That was in his spiritual mind. And there are a lot of times. One day when I come to deal with the blessings of the fathers, is one of the topic I'm going to teach on, the blessings of the fathers. I will tell you why they were so much into that. Because remember, when God created the earth, he put the father first. The father is always the head of the home. He always, look, God does not break protocol for anything. God will not break protocol for anything. The mother can bless you, but in that culture, when the father blesses you, it stands. When a father curses you, the mother can lift it up. The mother can remove that curse from on you. It's a father who, or someone who is above the father, will have to remove that curse. That was the culture I would bring you. The next time I would teach on that topic and the blessings of the fathers. But Joseph here is trying to confront his father on this issue, on changing his hand, to put his hand on the blessing. He was trying to maintain the order where the firstborn get the birthright and the firstborn get the blessing. And then it continued down. But Jacob is here. Jacob, who is now Israel, is shifting the norm. He's saying, no, I'm not fighting with the birthright, but I have the right to the blessing. And so he took the blessing and gave it to the younger one and not to the older one. And he also made reference that, I know my son, I'm not wrong, I'm not blind, I'm not confused, I'm not having trouble here. I know what I'm doing. The younger one with the older one will serve the younger one, even though the older one will also be a great person. He will also have great followings. He will also have a great descendant. He will also be great in everything he do. But the younger one will be greater, and even the older one will serve the younger one. And Joseph, not being pleased with this, but this is what the father chooses to do. And that was his right to do that. He could give it to whomever he wanted, because that was what he perceived will be the one who will be useful with this blessing. And when they got to the promised land, in some of my coming teachings, I will talk about how what came upon the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh. Remember, they put both of them as one tribe in the 12 tribes of Asia, in 12 tribe of Israel. Even though Joseph, if you look in the 12 tribe of Israel, there wasn't a tribe called Joseph. Even though Joseph was one of the sons of Jacob, but there wasn't a tribe called Joseph. Because of this act, what the father just did here, the tribe of Joseph will now be referred to as the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh. Became two instead of one. Whether it was because of what happened here, we will get into that, into the biblical history, and get into that and get into some way and see why they didn't say the tribe of Joseph. They rather became the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh. Even though it's two, but now they make them one and refer them to as one tribe. And so that's all the time we permit us for today. And I want to say thank you for allowing us to come into your home. Once again, I want to say it's been a pleasure being with you all this time, all these years. We will now be launching, by God's willing, on the 31st of this month. I'm just giving you a heads up on what is coming. The flyers will soon be up. We will be launching our new apps. The ICN app is now upgraded to a very sophisticated level. We have about 4 or 5 different categories in that app. You can listen to the radio live. You can watch the television live. You can also go on our various platforms. We are broadcasting. You will be surprised. We are broadcasting on nine different platforms. I hope I'm able to find those platforms and share them with you. We are now broadcasting on 9 different platforms. apps. But on the 31st, we will be launching those apps. We are now also available on Roku television. So if you have a Roku television in your home, you can watch the television station live. If you have Amazon, the Amazon Fire Stick, the Amazon Fire Stick, you can now watch ICN Impact TV and listen to the radio live on the ICN Amazon Fire Stick. This is where God has brought us. It started very small, but look at where technology and what God has brought us, and especially in these times, in a pandemic, when we struggling to even just pay the bills, but somehow God has been faithful to us, and I want to say you have been part of that. You have been listening to us. You've been giving us thumbs up. You've been saying thank you. You've been listening to some of our programs. And now we are broadcasting to 7 continents, 120 countries, over 20 million viewers and listeners and viewers now. Isn't that something? On the 31st, we're going to be launching this. And we're asking you to be part of this. Come grow with us. We are growing gradually, and we're asking you to be part of this. Tomorrow, when the stories of ICN is told, you will also have a voice. And I thank you for allowing me to also be part of this. Actually, it's a privilege, it's not a right. And so I am privileged to be part of this ICN story. Please join me next, I think on this Friday again when I come back on the air to bring you more story from Word of Impact on the ICN Impact Network. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you. My name is Pastor Chuck, and God bless you. And please don't forget to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend. At ICN,